3 brutal truths about surrendering to Goddess. Well, at 3 a.m. you want to believe what happens. The clock struck 3, its chime echoing like a warning in the stillness of the night. Leo sat alone in his dimly lit room, clutching a worn-out Bible in trembling hands. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets that sent goosebumps prickling down his spine. Everyone says that surrendering to God's will is peaceful, but what if they're wrong? The air around him felt charged, electric, as if the world held its breath, waiting for the moment he would give in. Outside, the moon hung low, casting an eerie glow across the deserted street. An old oak tree loomed closer to his window, its branches twisting like bony fingers clawing at the sky. And then it happened, the first strange occurrence. A sudden gust of wind rattled the window, and Leo could have sworn he heard a voice, a faint whisper swirling through the air like smoke. Was it the wind playing tricks, or something more? Fear gripped him, tightening its hold around his chest, making it hard to breathe. He tried to shake it off, to focus on the pages of the Bible that felt both foreign and familiar. The ink seemed to shimmer, glaring up at him, demanding attention, revealing truths that echoed in the hollow of his heart. A bead of sweat trickled down his forehead as he wrestled with the promise, surrender for peace. But would it really be peaceful? Or would it tear him apart? As he read, shadows flickered, and dark forms gathered by the edges of his vision. Sweat dripped down his back. Sounds shifted, the creaking floorboards groaned like a wounded beast, and the sheer weight of the moment pressed down on him. He was caught in turmoil, potential freedom on one side, the shackles of fear on the other. His pulse raced, pounding like a drum in the suffocating silence. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The room darkened suddenly, a heavy weight settling in as his thoughts twisted tighter. It felt like he was on the edge of something monumental, but what? He glanced back at the window. The shadows outside were more than just darkness, they seemed to pulse with a life of their own. And at that precise moment, a scream split the silence, echoing from somewhere deep in the night. He froze, heart racing, staring wide-eyed into the abyss, wondering if this night would break him or set him free. What horrifying truth awaited him just beyond the fragile veil of surrender? Leo's heart pounded like a jackhammer, each beat reverberating through the silence that enveloped him. That scream, it had sliced through the darkness, filling the air with dread. He couldn't tell where it had come from, but it was a cry that begged for help, shattering the illusion of peace he desperately sought. Frozen in place, he felt the weight of his situation. A choice loomed over him. Would he surrender to Goddess' will and step into the unknown, or cower in fear, paralyzed by the shadows? The whisper returned, teasing around the edges of his consciousness, urging him to listen. Was it a message? An omen? He lifted the Bible, its well-worn pages soft under his fingers, but a sudden chill swept through the room, snatching away his resolve. What do you want from me? He stammered, voice barely above a whisper. The air thickened, and in response, the shadows twisted, thicker and darker, coiling like smoke. A distant light flickered beyond the window, illuminating a figure standing under the oak tree just for a moment. Leo squinted, heart racing, but the figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared. He swallowed hard, the lump in his throat reminiscent of the time he'd almost drowned as a child, gasping for breath in the icy water. He felt as though he was drowning again, suffocating in darkness and fear. Digging deep, he forced himself to breathe, slow and steady, searching for clarity in his chaos. And then he remembered the verse. Be still, and know that I am God. Palm sweating, he spoke it aloud. Echoes swallowed his words, leaving him in the crushing void of uncertainty. Was he being asked to be still? Or was it a cruel joke played by the darkness? The wind outside shrieked, tapping against the window like frantic fingers, pulling him back from thoughts that threatened to spiral. He took another breath and steeled himself, trying to filter out the panic that clawed up his throat. This was a test, a terrifying, disorienting trial. "Okay, I'll listen," Leo blurted, locking his gaze on the window. "What do you want from me?" He wasn't sure if he was prepared for an answer. As if in response, the wind howled, sending branches waving violently against the glass. The shadows responded, swirling in a dance that spoke of chaos and fury. Leo's breath quickened again. He needed to escape this room, but he was bound by the weight of his fear and uncertainty. Suddenly, a flash bright, blinding lit up the night. Leo winced, instinctively shielding his eyes. He felt an overwhelming presence, an energy that buzzed around him with such intensity he thought he might burst into flames. The moment passed, leaving a deep silence in its wake. Peering through the darkness, he noticed something on his desk, a small, faintly glowing stone he had never seen before. Confused, he hesitated, reaching out as if his hand were drawn to it. Was it a gift? A warning? As his fingers brushed the stone, a jolt raced through him, visions filling his mind, horrifying images of a world engulfed in chaos and despair. He recoiled, breathing rapidly, a visceral pull to both flee from the foreboding images and lean into the insight revealing the harsh truths he desperately needed to confront. He was teetering on the edge of revelation and despair. What awaited him on the other side of surrender? As he wrestled with the stone in his hand, a final scream tore through the silence, a blood-curdling sound that made every hair on his body stand on end. Who was crying out into the night? What truth would he have to face before he could truly surrender? And suddenly, Leo knew he wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for something much larger, hidden in the ominous shadows that surrounded him. The time had come for him to choose. But could he handle the answer? Leo's palms trembled around the glowing stone, its warm light casting eerie shadows on the walls. The scream echoed in his mind, a desperate call that filled him with dread. What tragedy had summoned that cry? He felt tethered to an unseen thread, drawn towards the mysteries looming outside his window. Before he could process his thoughts, the floor creaked beneath him. It was a familiar sound to him. It meant movement, life. But tonight, it felt more like a warning. Sucking in a breath, he pushed his fear aside. He had come this far. He couldn't let it end here. Inching closer to the window, he peered out, scanning the dark night for any hint of movement. The oak tree loomed like a guardian, a sentinel over a realm where shadows danced and breathed. He squinted, praying to catch a glimpse of whatever had ignited his fear. Just then, a flicker of motion caught his eye. There it was again, the figure under the oak. It looked darker than the shadows themselves, as if it were part of the night. "Who are you?" Leo's voice broke the silence. Barely a whisper, but sharper than he intended. The figure didn't respond. It simply stood there, as silent and ominous as the storm unfolding overhead. Thunder rolled like a distant beast awakening, sending chills down Leo's spine. The light in his hand pulsed, not erratically, but in sync with his heartbeat. Each pulse seemed to echo the mystery awaiting him. He couldn't turn away. The figure felt like a riddle he needed to solve. Was it a ghost? A hallucination brought on by fear? Or perhaps a guide? He steeled himself and opened the window. A gust of wind rushed in, carrying the sweet yet rotten scent of decay. Leo coughed, desperate to be free of the suffocating dread. "What do you want from me?" he asked again, louder this time, letting the wind carry his voice. A moment of eerie stillness followed. Then, the figure slowly turned its head, and Leo felt a jolt of recognition. Those eyes, they were consuming him. There was knowledge behind them, a sorrow that seemed impossibly familiar. Heart racing, he leaned closer, confused yet entranced, if sensing his gaze, the figure lifted a hand, pointing towards something in the distance. In that direction, the chaos of his earlier visions flickered to life, nearly spilling over from his mind into reality. Buildings crumbled, fires raged, people cried out in anguish. It was swift but almost hypnotic, as if the stone had unlocked a window to a fate that could be his if he remained complacent. "Stop!" Leo cried, but the torrent of images persisted, crashing into him like a sudden wave. He retracted, the weight of the truth settling heavily on his chest. His thoughts raced. Was this the future he had aligned himself with? The figure shifted closer to Leo, its presence heavier now, charged with an energy that made the room feel small. "You're not just a witness," it intoned, voice like rolling thunder. You are a player in this fight against despair. Leo's heart dropped. He had known, hadn't he? This wasn't just about him. This was about a world yearning for rescue, teetering on the brink of ruin. Gasping, he glanced down at the stone, still warm in his palm. Maybe it was more than a warning. Perhaps it was a key. A surge of determination flooded him, battling the fog of fear. Would he embrace the challenge ahead or retreat into the comfortable shadows? Just as he grappled with the choice, the world outside darkened, the sky crackling with energy. The figure pointed again, more urgently this time. The ground trembled beneath him, a low hum building to a crescendo. What awaited him if he took a leap of faith? Leo. The voice came like thunder, echoing through the room. It was not the figure. It was someone familiar. Who? A new scream pierced the air again, a cry for help. But this time it was undeniably close. Leo's heart raced. Who needed him now? Time was running out, and he had to decide fast. Would he confront the chaos and embrace the unknown, or would he hide from the truth that now lay before him, demanding action? The figure's shadow flickered, almost impatient. The night held its breath, waiting for Leo's answer, a response that would shape not just his fate, but the fate of all. What fresh horrors awaited him outside? Would he dare unseal the door between worlds? With adrenaline pumping through his veins, Leo hesitated, his mind racing. The scream was clearer now, sharper, and bursting with urgency. It echoed in his chest, mixing with an instinctual drive to protect, to save. He turned to the figure beneath the oak tree, its face shrouded in darkness. Its eyes bore into him, like they were probing his very soul. Stay, it whispered, urging him. The command seemed to reverberate, blending with the thunder outside. But he couldn't simply stay. Someone needed him. Suddenly, the shadows in the room thickened, almost tangible, swirling around him like living tendrils. Panic gripped him. With a deep breath and a lurching heart, he threw the window wide open. I'm coming, he shouted, as though the mere declaration would break the invisible chain binding him. The cool night air wrapped around him, sharp and intoxicating. He tossed the stone onto the bed, its glow dimming, and leapt out of the window. The ground felt solid beneath his feet, yet uncertainty gnawed at him. With each step toward the oak, the figure remained motionless, waiting. Leo. The voice cried again, clearer now. It was his sister Mia. The familiar sound twisted his insides, choking him with fear. He broke into a sprint, dodging branches and overgrown weeds. Mia, where are you? Help! She screamed. Each call clawed at his heart, propelling him faster. The woods felt alive, whispering secrets and dangers. The shadows twisted against the glow of the moon, spurring visions of turmoil ahead. Had he really stepped into a nightmare? As he neared the oak, the figure began to meld away, becoming one with the shadows that surrounded him. Desperation flooded Leo as the chilling realization hit him. Mia was in danger, and he could feel her fear like a lead weight in his chest. Mia, he yelled again, his voice cracking. The underbrush whispered around him, but the silence felt thick, choking out hope. He moved past the oak and into a clearing, where moonlight poured down like liquid silver. But it was empty. His heart raced as dread washed over him. Where are you? Panic tightened his throat as he spun, searching the treeline for any sign of her. But the only sound was the rustling leaves and the ever-looming storm. Then, a shape emerged from the darkness, the silhouette of a man, tall and imposing. Leo froze. Who are you? He demanded, fists clenched at his sides. Just a guide, the man said softly, but the malice in his tone prickled Leo's skin. You should be careful meddling with what you don't understand, boy. Leo's chest tightened. I don't have time for this. Where's my sister? The man stepped closer, the shadows stretching around him. She isn't the only one in danger tonight. The end you saw, it's only the beginning. You must choose wisely. What do you mean? Leo growled, battling rising fear and anger. He couldn't afford to be distracted. He had to find Mia. Every choice has a consequence, the man continued, an unsettling smile creeping across his lips. And your courage brings forth challenges you've never imagined. Before Leo could react, the man gestured toward the ominous woods. Follow the path if you dare, but be prepared for what's waiting. Your journey is riddled with trials meant to test who you truly are. Heart pounding, Leo scanned the darkening woods. Questions raced in his mind, but one burned brighter than the rest. Was he ready to face what lay ahead? With no time left for second-guessing, he nodded sharply, a silent vow to save Mia and unearth the truth of this horror. The figure faded back into the darkness, leaving only the echo of laughter in its wake. Determined, Leo turned, sprinting toward the path that twisted into the trees. With each step, the weight of the stone he left behind felt heavier in his mind, urging him back. Find her, he whispered fiercely to himself. But even as he ran deeper into the unknown, a thought lingered: what if the most devastating secrets were yet to come? With urgent breaths and pounding feet, Leo stepped into the shadows, marking the start of a perilous journey. Would he emerge not only as a hero but as a piece of this cursed fate? And then, from the depths of the night, another scream echoed, a sound that would pull him deeper into the webs of darkness. What awaited him as he followed that chilling cry? Leaves crunched beneath Leo's feet, the sound sharp in the thickening silence. His pulse drummed in his ears, each beat pushing him forward, driven by frantic urgency. The path before him wove like a serpent, twisting deeper into the shadowed underbrush. With every step, he felt the ghostly presence of the man linger, as though eyes were still watching, judging his resolve. Mia, he shouted again, the name tearing from his throat. Each call felt like a futile effort, swallowed by the oppressive darkness, but he had to keep trying. The further he moved into the woods, the more eerie the landscape became. Shapes flickered at the corners of his vision, figures darting just beyond the reach of moonlight, whispers threading through the branches like tendrils reaching for him. Then, another scream shattered the quiet, laced with terror that sent a chill curling up his spine. It was different this time, wilder, desperate. Leo's breath hitched. That was Mia. With renewed vigor, he raced forward, branches clawing at his arms, pulling him back as if trying to divert him from his path. Hold on. I'm coming, he yelled, forcing his way through the undergrowth. The air thickened with anticipation and dread, wrapping around him in a tight grip. He burst into another clearing, hard in his throat. The moon hung heavy, illuminating the scene with an eerie glow. His heart sank. In the center was a circle of stones, ancient and foreboding, each one pulsating with dark energy. Shadows danced within their confines, shadows that whispered secrets he wasn't prepared to hear. Mia, he called again, voice trembling. The only response was an echo of the night, mocking him. Dropping to his knees, he scanned the ground for any sign of her. That's when he noticed at the edge of the stone circle, a fragment of fabric fluttered, caught on a jagged rock. His pulse quickened. It was her jacket, frayed at the hem, streaked with something dark. Panic struck like a poisonous serpent, coiling around his heart. No. A low rumble of laughter resonated from the trees. Suddenly, the shadows within the stone circle surged, twisting and contorting. Leo stumbled back, every instinct screaming for him to flee, but he held his ground. Come out, he shouted, fists clenched, uncertainty battling courage. With a flicker, a shape emerged from the shadows. A man, no, something more. It shifted with an ethereal grace, its features indistinct yet familiar. You think you can save her? It spoke, its voice like sandpaper on his mind. You are but a child playing a game far beyond your understanding. Leo's heart raced, anger igniting within him. What have you done to her? Done? The entity purred, its form coiling like smoke. Perhaps nothing at all. Perhaps everything. You see, the path you tread is one of choices, and your choice has brought you here. This is a realm of testing, boy. Will you surrender to the darkness or fight for the light? Each question felt like a dagger to his gut, forcing him to confront the reality of his powerlessness. I'll never surrender. I'll find Mia. He couldn't let despair drag him under. The laughter echoed again, more heartless this time, and the shadows within the circle shifted, as if alive. Then prove it, Leo. Follow the next scream, yours or hers. The choice is yours to make. In that moment, Leo felt crushed beneath the weight of uncertainty. The nightmare spiraled around him, a vortex of dark possibilities. With a final gulp of air, he turned toward the direction of the next scream, his heart racing. What awaited him in the silence beyond? Would he embrace the darkness in pursuit of Mia, or would he find the light needed to save her? Just then, the air crackled with energy, a surge that sent chills racing down his spine. A branch snapped in the distance, and he felt something watching him from the shadows, waiting for him to make that fatal choice. Could he navigate this treacherous web and emerge unscathed, or was he doomed to become another soul lost in the dark? The wind howled, sending a shiver down Leo's spine. He felt the weight of the darkness pressing in, as if the forest itself was alive, breathing heavily around him. The shrill echoes of Mia's scream quaked through the trees, wrapping around him like a tightening noose. "Come on, Leo. Move," he urged himself, hands shaking at his sides, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Each step felt heavier. The night was growing darker with every heartbeat, shadows swirling like angry spirits hungry for his fear. Pushing onward, he stumbled through the dense underbrush, every sense alive to the world around him. The branches clawed at his skin, leaves rustled in whispers, and the ground felt uneven beneath his feet, a treacherous path that tested his resolve. Just ahead, the trees parted, revealing another clearing that seemed ripe with a foreboding stillness. As he stepped into the moonlight again, he caught sight of something horrific. There in the center lay a torn piece of the forest floor, orange-red and shining, glistening in the pale light. Blood. Leo's heart dropped, a sickening weight settling in his stomach. "Mia!" he screamed, but the forest swallowed his voice, and silence stretched unsettlingly around him. The shadows pulsed, and again he felt that chilling gaze. He wasn't alone. Footsteps echoed close by, slipping through the shadows, careful and deliberate. Leo's breath quickened. He could feel the presence moving, a predator lurking just beyond sight. Panic clawed at his throat. He had to find her, he had to keep moving. As he turned to escape the clearing, the shadows lunged. Pain seared through his side as a branch whipped around him, making him gasp. Dark tendrils twisted around his chest, squeezing his lungs. "Fight, Leo! You're stronger than this." The echo of the entity's taunts twisted in his mind, morphing into something sinister. "No!" he shouted, wrenching himself free. He stumbled backward and fell to the ground, gasping for air, heart hammering like a war drum. "Mia!" It was a feeble whisper now, as tears of frustration blurred his vision. He had to keep going. He couldn't think about the darkness. He couldn't let it win. Getting back on his shaky legs, he remembered the laughter, deep and mocking. "Prove it," it had said. The challenge rang in his ears like a bell tolling for the dead. What did it mean? What kind of fight was this? He forced himself to breathe, to think. The next scream pierced the silence again, more desperate this time, and it pierced through the fog of fear and uncertainty like a beacon. With a deep breath, Leo surged forward, ignoring the throbbing pain in his side. Each footfall echoed like thunder as he darted through the trees, branches snapping back at him, sharp and unforgiving. The laughter returned, this time distorted, bouncing off the trunks and messily threading through the air, causing an unsettling sense of paranoia to creep in. Was he being followed? Then he saw her, a fleeting glimpse of white against the nighttime gathering shadows. Mia? No, it was a trick, a fleeting shadow mimicking what he desired most. Rage ignited in his chest. He refused to be toyed with. He would not let her be just another illusion. "Mia!" he bellowed again, louder this time, his voice a tumultuous wave crashing against the shore of despair. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. The shadows fell silent. Cold dread enveloped him as he realized the darkness was no longer just an observer, it was waiting for him to fall. Just as fear threatened to drown him, there it was again, that sound. This time it was closer. A scream split the air, a scream full of hope, full of despair. Leo. Hope unfurled within him, warm against the chill that permeated the forest. But as he turned toward the sound, a figure emerged from the shadows behind her, one that made his blood run cold. "Your journey has just begun," Leo, a voice filled with malice, echoed as the night shuddered, darkness coiling around them both like a great serpent preparing to strike. What would Leo choose now, in the face of such horror? Would he embrace the darkness enveloping him? Or could he still break through, reach for that flicker of light? The figure stepped forward, its edges shrouded in shadow, but the piercing gaze locked onto Leo like a vice. It wasn't just any figure. It was a tall silhouette, a man draped in darkness, with an unsettling grin etched on his face. Something twisted in Leo's gut. "What do you want?" he rasped, his voice barely a whisper, panic swelling in his chest. The creature laughed, a sound that sliced through the night like a jagged knife, echoing with the cruel promise of despair. "Oh, Leo, you are not in a position to ask questions. You're here to prove yourself, again." A shiver ran down his spine. Prove himself? What did that mean? His heart raced. Images of Mia flooded his mind's eye, her warmth, her laughter. He couldn't let this monster bend him to its will. "Release her," he shouted, desperate for control, even as the shadows twisted around him, mocking. The laughter bounced ominously against the trees, an ugly symphony of cruelty that filled the stillness. Release? Oh, but she's the prize in this delightful game. The figure taunted, stepping closer. "And you, poor Leo, are merely the pawn, chasing after phantoms." Something inside Leo snapped. Fueled by anger and desperation, he took a step forward, clenching his fists. "No, I'm not a pawn, and I will find her. I'll get her out of this." The malicious grin widened. "Find her? You don't even know where to start." With a swift motion, the figure extended a hand, and the shadows writhed and surged like a living thing. Dark limbs shot forward, grasping at Leo's feet, pulling him down, just as that infuriating laughter filled the air once more. "We can make this fun, you know," it drawled, leaning in, the chill of its breath washing over Leo. "You want her? Then prove it. Show me your strength. Embrace the darkness, and you just might save her." "No," Leo shouted, forcing himself to stand firm, though he felt the pressure rising around him, the weight of inevitability snapping at his heels. "I want to give in to you." The figures laughed louder, and it echoed through the trees, alive with maddening energy. "Then we shall see how far your conviction goes." It disappeared into the shadows, leaving Leo alone with the rising dread, the darkness now swirling around him with fury. The trees creaked ominously as the wind picked up again, a forewarning of what was to come. "Mia!" he yelled, heart pounding. He could feel the woods closing in on him, every direction obscured by thick shadows. He had to keep moving. He had to find her before it was too late. Then he heard it again, a faint whisper wrapped in a ghostly echo. "Leo, help me!" His breath caught in his throat. The voice was clearer now, as if it were guiding him. But the deeper he plunged into the forest, the more he felt its tendrils curling around him, threatening to drag him into its depths. He stumbled forward, following the desperate call, brushing aside branches that reached out like cold fingers. Each step felt weighted, as if the ground itself wished to swallow him whole. "Stay with me, Mia," he shouted, trying to drown out the laughter, the chaos that enveloped him. But with every exclamation, the forest seemed to respond. The howls grew louder, almost angry, and the shadows began to pulse, as if taunting him with his fears, stirring up his doubts. Leo clenched his teeth, forcing himself onward. He would not surrender. Just as the woods seemed to close in, he caught sight of a flicker, soft, illuminating. Hope ignited within him, and he rushed forward. Hope, however, was a tricky thing in a place like this. Then, out of nowhere, a shadow loomed in front of him, blocking the light. Everything fell silent. The brightness faded. Going somewhere? The cold voice was chilling, and Leo's heart sank. Despair washed over him. Was this the end? "Run, Leo!" A familiar voice broke through. It was weak, but it was there, and in that moment, Leo made a choice. But would it lead him to salvation, or would the darkness consume him whole? The shadow loomed larger, a suffocating presence that made Leo's skin crawl. Panic gripped him, his heart thundering like a war drum in his ears. He couldn't let this be the end. Not like this. The whisper had cut through the silence. It was a lifeline, fragile yet tangible, urging him to escape. Suddenly, the shadow lunged, and Leo leaped to the side, barely avoiding a grasp that would have locked him in eternal darkness. He stumbled over roots and uneven ground, his breath coming in ragged gasps, every instinct screaming at him to flee. The taste of fear was sharp and metallic on his tongue. "Pathetic," the chilling voice called out, frustration dripping from each syllable. "You think you can run from me? You think you can save her?" Leo had no answer. Each step away from that sinister figure felt like a gamble with fate. The deeper he fled into the trees, the more the shadows thickened, swirling around him, taunting him. They blinked in and out of reality, a playground of nightmares playing out in vivid hues of blacks and grays. "Mia," he shouted, desperation flooding his voice. The response came as a haunting echo, a wavering cry that vibrated through the stillness of the night. "Leo, please." The chorus of despair wrapped around him, heavy and suffocating. It was coming from everywhere and nowhere at once, seeping under his skin. But was it real? The shadows whispered too, their voice seductive. "Give in. Let us show you the truth about your desire." He ground his teeth, shaking his head violently. "No, I won't be tricked." Yet the shadows twisted, flooded with ephemeral faces, ghostly visages of fears he had buried. They were memories of failure, moments of regret, each one a mocking reminder of his perceived inadequacies. His knees buckled as echoes of doubt clawed at his mind, calling him a mere shadow himself. "Why fight it?" The figure's voice hissed, closer now, echoing through the twisted trees. "You know you're not strong enough. Just let go." Leo tightened his fists, pushing back against the tide of despair washing over him. He took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage within him, and shouted into the abyss. "I am strong enough." The forest shuddered as he declared it, the shadows recoiling as though burned. For a brief moment, the darkness wavered, revealing glimmers of bright light in the distance. Hope ignited again within him. But how far was it? How deep was the pit he had to traverse to reach it? Mia's voice crackled through the air once more, clearer, filled with urgency. "Leo, help me, don't leave me." He pushed through the agony, fueled by his love for her. With renewed determination, he sprinted towards the flickering lights. But just as he broke through the thicket of shadows, a hand emerged from the darkness, gripping his wrist. The figure materialized beside him, face twisted in a cruel smile. "Did you think you could defy me?" Leo twisted, struggling against the unnatural grip. The forest roared to life, a cacophony of symphonic howls. The figure tightened its hold. He felt the chill seep into his bones, creating a haze of dread that clouded his thoughts. "Let go of me," Leo growled, fighting against despair and rage. But his voice was barely a whisper against the overwhelming power of the shadows. The figure leaned in, its breath cold and sharp. "You will realize your place soon enough, Leo. All you have to do is surrender." This was the moment of reckoning. Could he truly fight against the force that sought to consume him? Or would he yield, not just for himself, but for Mia? In his heart, Leo knew the answer. But the cost to find it had never been clearer. As the darkness threatened to pull him under, he heard the whisper again, stronger, more insistent. "Leo, the first believe in you," and in that instant, he felt the heat of defiance rising within him. But what awaited him on the other side of this battle? Would he defy the darkness, or would it claim him as its own? Leo's pulse raced, each beat a frantic plea for survival. He pulled against the unyielding grip, adrenaline surging through his veins. Close enough to feel the malevolence seeping from the figure's essence, he planted his feet firmly into the ground, refusing to let it drag him back into darkness. "Your fear is your downfall," the figure taunted, its voice reverberating like thunder within the night. "Embrace it, Leo. You know you want to." The shadows crowded in tighter, pulsating with an electric energy that threatened to crush him. Panic screamed in his mind, but the whisper of Mia cut through the storm of despair. "Trust your strength, Leo." The memories of his failures flashed before him, ignited by the shadows. Moments of disappointment, the times he had given in. But then, a glimmer of defiance sparked at the core of his being. "No more," he shouted, summoning his voice like a weapon. With one final heave, Leo tore free from the figure's grasp, propelled by absolute determination. His legs flew beneath him as he launched himself toward the distant light, a beacon of hope shimmering beyond the chaos. But just as it seemed he was free, the dark figure surged forward, blocking his path. "You think you can escape your true self?" It hissed, the world vibrating around them as shadows raced to solidify his escape route. "I am not you," Leo roared, the truth of his identity filling him with raw power. He did not just run. He fought back the encroaching darkness, the shadows recoiling with each assertion. "I am Leo." The air crackled as light seeped through the cracks of despair, bathing the forest in a radiant glow. But the figure and embodiment of all the terror and self-doubt he had ever felt still loomed large, looming over him with a smirk. Do you think it can save you? The light is merely an illusion. With a heart full of fire and fierce resolve, Leo braced himself. No illusion can contain my will. As he lunged forward, hands stretched, the scream of denial echoed in the silence, and the woods around him trembled. Then, they collided. Light met darkness in a blinding flash, a shockwave reverberating outward, engulfing the forest in an unearthly glow. Leo felt the force push him backward, crashing against the trees. Pain flared in his side, but not once did he think of surrender. The shadows writhed, crushed against the light, trying to fend them off. He could feel Mia's presence calling to him from somewhere deep within, urging him on. Leo. The shadows threatened to drown her voice, twisting it into something ghastly, but it only made him fight harder. Don't let it take you. Never. He shouted back as he turned toward the figure, a singular focus burning in his chest. You're nothing but a memory. With every ounce of strength, he surged forward again, defiant against the malevolence that sought to smother him. The collision of darkness and light sent tremors through the very air around him. Yet as Leo pushed through the veil, surges of doubt clawed at his consciousness. What if he was too late? Would the darkness devour Mia before he could reach her? As the light began to fade, an unsettling realization washed over him, a familiar sensation, like the sinking feeling that precedes a tidal wave. The forest around him distorted, the shadows embracing him once more, whispering sweet poison into his ear. Just surrender. You can't win. Leo fought against the encroaching dread, but now, he felt something shifting, an undeniable pull, dragging at his feet, calling him to relent. As the light flickered, dimming beneath the weight of the shadows, a chilling thought gripped him. Was it all in vain? In that moment, as the last glimmer of light flickered, he had to decide, surrender to the darkness or fight for what remained. In the depths of his heart, one question lingered as the shadows closed in around him. Would he truly risk it all for love? The shadows coiled around Leo, a suffocating embrace that felt like a betrayal of his very spirit. Inside, he fought to hold on to the warmth of Mia's voice, the hope that rang like a bell in the dark. I won't give up, he shouted, his voice a defiant roar that shook the very ground beneath him. The darkness twisted in response, each tendril seeking to claw its way into his mind. You can't win. The figure sneered, its voice slithering like a serpent. You are a shadow, just as I am. But Leo dug deep into his conviction, his heart pounding with determination. With every ounce of strength left in him, Leo pushed through the murkiness surrounding him. Memories of Mia flooded back, her laughter, her smile, the very essence that made him fight harder. He was not just a pawn in this game. He was a protector, a brother. I am Leo, he yelled again, louder now, focusing all his mind on the love that bound him to her, a scintillating light piercing the veil of darkness. And then it happened. A crackle of energy surged through him, ignited by hope. The darkness shuddered, the figure faltering for a moment, as light burst forth from Leo's core, a luminescent, white fire engulfing his body. The shadows screamed, recoiling from the force of pure love and determination. Mia, I'm coming, he shouted, feeling the connection to her like a tether formed of light, drawing him forward. Suddenly, the world shifted loudly all at once. The shadows writhed in agony, while Leo surged ahead like a bolt of thunder, cutting through the creeping despair. The figure wailed, a sound that rattled through the trees, echoing through the night like cracking ice. No, you cannot resist. You are nothing. But with each step Leo took, with every heartbeat, the darkness lost its grip. At that moment, the forest fell strangely silent. A shimmering veil stretched before him, marking the boundary between the shadows and the bright world beyond. Leo pushed through, the luminous energy flowing from him, as if the very fabric of his being had transformed into a beacon of hope. He burst into a clearing, bright and vibrant with colors he couldn't even name. And there, just ahead, was Mia, a shimmering presence within the haze. Leo, she cried, arms outstretched, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and relief. The shadows lurked behind him, but Leo turned back, confronting the darkness one last time. You don't have power over me. You are just a whisper of my fears. The shadows recoiled, twisting grotesquely as if in pain, but he didn't relent. He aspired to extinguish the grip of despair. With every shred of courage he had, he raised his hands, and beams of light exploded like fireworks. "Let her go?" Leo bellowed, sending waves of brightness cascading toward the figure that writhed with rage. The shadows dissipated, crackling and snapping like dry leaves caught in a windstorm. Mia stepped forward, and Leo felt the warmth of their bond envelop him. Taking her hand, he pulled her securely against him. Together, they stood strong, two hearts united in the face of such horror. The figure screeched one last time, a haunting cry of despair echoing as it dissolved into nothingness. The shadows, once so imposing, faded into nothingness, leaving behind a tranquil silence where whispers of fear had roared moments before. Mia looked up at him, her eyes glistening with emotion. "You found me," she whispered, shaking slightly as if the energy of the moment still tingled in the air. "Always," Leo replied, pulling her close. "I'll always find you." With that, the night began to brighten, a soft dawn creeping over the horizon, warming the cold ground for the first time. The forest transformed, its once shadowy corners filled with life and radiant colors. Hand in hand, Leo and Mia walked out of the grim depths, stepping into the light of a new day. No longer haunted by shadows, they looked forward to what lay ahead, hearts beating in sync, filled with hope, courage, and an unbreakable bond. This was a new beginning, one where light triumphed over the darkness and love forged the path forward. A reminder that, even in the depths of despair, with every step, they could break through. Remember, this is not just a story, it's a testament to the power of love, resilience, and faith. And if you enjoyed this journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive stories, and smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference. Let's keep this amazing community growing.